Hi, welcome to our presentation titled Establishing Teaching, Cognitive, Social, and Civic Presence, a Pedagogical Approach for Online Service Learning Courses.
As many of us are now experiencing, the online modality of education has been the norm due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But I hope you can agree with us that bridging the perceived distance between the students and faculty in an online setup still remains a challenge, especially when service to partner communities comes into the mix within the context of using service learning as a pedagogy.
Given the aforementioned problem, and to level off understanding, allow us to explain what we mean by service learning. Service learning is an experiential, critical, and constructive learning pedagogy that intentionally integrates academic study with an organized service activity that addresses community needs, guided by reciprocal relations among students, faculty members, and partner communities, and systematic reflection on the service rendered by the students.
Going back to the problem, we proposed a solution. Guided by the principles of 1. The Ateneo Adaptive Design for Learning or ADL, 2. The primacy of reciprocity and reflection in service learning, and 3. The community of inquiry approach for online learning, we aim to minimize the perceived distance felt in online education by service learning stakeholders, students, faculty, and partner communities by establishing teaching presence, cognitive presence, social presence, and civic presence.
Thus, allow us to begin with how we establish teaching presence in our online courses. By teaching presence, we mean the effective design of the educational experience and facilitation of active and interactive learning.
First, in establishing teaching presence, we organized lessons into discrete modules with lesson content that were broken down into bite-sized chunks onto Canvas pages to help reduce the feeling of the students of being overwhelmed with information. Canvas is the official learning management system used in Ateneo.
Second, the facilitation of active and interactive learning is done throughout the modules by using formative and summative assessments at interim checkpoints to allow the students to investigate, create, collaborate, contemplate, and/or communicate with their peers or community of learners.
Third, we used Bitmojis of ourselves as course coaches, aside from graphs, charts, icons, and popular images throughout the Canvas pages to make students feel their course coach was present with them throughout their learning journey.
Lastly, in establishing teaching presence, synchronous class sessions were held over Zoom to deliver class lectures that synthesize lessons and emphasize crucial topics covered in the modules. Video recordings of online lectures were provided to the students for their asynchronous learning.
Allow us to proceed with how we established cognitive presence in our online classes. By cognitive presence, we are referring to sustained communication of course content and ideas with the students, so they will not forget what they have encountered and learned.
First, in establishing cognitive presence, we made use of practice quizzes through the Quizzes application. Practice quizzes allow students to asynchronously review important module lessons at various interim checkpoints by making it fun and interactive through a low bandwidth test gamification application.
Second, we encouraged engagement with the use of curated YouTube video lessons on Edpuzzle. This allowed students to engage asynchronously with YouTube video lesson content that contained embedded formative and summative assessment questions.
Third, we fostered collaborative reading of unassigned text through Perusal. This allows students to collaboratively annotate PDF documents and discuss the merits of the assigned text using guide questions.
Lastly, in establishing cognitive presence, synthesis and reflections of module lessons were processed via the Canvas discussion boards or Flipgrid videos. Using question prompts, students synthesized module lesson insights either in writing responses via the Canvas discussion board or recording video responses on Flipgrid, which was also a form of oral recitation.
Allow us now to proceed with how we established social presence in our online classes. By social presence, we mean one's effective ability to project oneself socially and emotionally as a course coach to the students.
First, in establishing social presence, we proactively monitored and mentored students by scheduling team progress reports and consultations. In a quarter or semester setup, there would be 3 to 4 team consultations consisting of 30 to 40 minutes per meeting. Through such team consults, we were able to check on the project progress of the students, their team commitments and dynamics, and their relationships with the partner community and assign formator from the Ateneo Office for Social Concern and Involvement. It is also through team consults that we were able to provide timely feedback and, in cases of academic and personal difficulties, offer moral support and emotional assurance with the intention of making them feel that we were present as their course coaches and not as a cold examiner.
Lastly, in establishing social presence, we provided our online classes with virtual study halls or virtual classrooms through the use of a Discord server, a communications platform application, so our students can have a dedicated study space where they can easily communicate with each other, share supplementary learning materials, work collaboratively online, and conduct team meetings. However, official announcement from course coaches and any related content coming from us are conveyed and shared using Canvas.
Let us now proceed with the last part of our presentation. That is, how we established civic presence in our online classes. By civic presence, we are referring to designing course norms and learning strategies for purposeful civic-mindedness learning.
Please watch our prepared video titled Meeting in the Middle, Core Values Recollected in Service Learning Practices to know more about how we established civic learning in our online classes. Lara and I are both professors of the Economy, Society, and Sustainable Development, or Social Science 13, which is a core course at the Ateneo de Manila University. Even though the Ateneo is generally considered a school for the privileged, not all students are economically well off, and many live outside central urban areas as they access Canvas. Also, not all are spared from the negative consequences of poor internet infrastructure and irregular electric power interruptions in many parts of the country, which affects faculty members, students, and partner communities.
Service learning in the context of Ateneo consists of a three-way course tie-up, a core course, a major course from the bachelor's program, and a government-mandated CWATS course under the umbrella of the National Service Training Program. The Office for Social Concern and Involvement handles the program with these SL tie-ups: Binhi and Soksa 11, Punla and Theology 12, and Big Case with Soksa 13. Students are required to produce a final integrated output that synthesizes their service learning experience by using a development framework to highlight specific issues from the core course in their online engagements and including a proposal or deliverable based on the methods or skills of the major course that would be of benefit to the partner community.
Because of the cancellation of face-to-face classes brought about by measures to curb the spread of COVID-19, it was really a challenge to facilitate service learning engagements of our students, especially that the digital divide brought about limited interaction among students, faculty, and partner communities. Thus, it was really important to make the most out of the situation by targeting partner community needs that can be feasibly addressed online. In my experience, I wish to highlight two common forms of online service learning projects that my students implemented with their partner communities. First is the creation of online learning supplementary materials by my mathematics students for the benefit of partner public senior high school teachers and their respective students. My students use Google Classroom, pre-recorded video lectures, PowerPoint handouts, and creation of practice exercises to deliver fun and engaging lessons in general mathematics, pre-calculus, and statistics and probability. Second, my interdisciplinary studies students conducted evaluation research to help partner NGOs to have the data they need to continue with their project operations amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. My students made use of desk-based research and online interviews to come up with a report that partner NGOs use for their organizational planning.
It wasn't easy. I love teaching. Always have. Growing up, I was blessed to receive generous scholarships from middle school to graduate school. Because of such grace, I always embraced these mantras: pay it forward, serve the poor, defend those who cannot defend themselves. In Filipino, we say, para sa iba or for others. It was a natural progression to ultimately teach. After college graduation in 1993, I joined the Jesuit volunteer program as a teacher in a poor coastal and farming community. I've been teaching in Ateneo since 1996. In 2020, during COVID, I started teaching Soksai 13. The mere prospect of speaking about social justice and transformation invigorated and excited me no end. However, the COVID context of SEL became increasingly tenuous, notably the service part. I was often burned out from reading proposals and contending with student anxiety, which I felt was unfairly heaped on me. What stopped me from eschewing the idea of doing service learning was the learning part. While I struggled with emotional anxiety, my students were teaching me day by day humility and patience. In short, the true essence of what it is like to give of oneself in the service of others. Their final projects were masterful works of art. They displayed synthetic thought and astounding depth in their reflections. Their earnestness to make a difference was awe-inspiring. The fatigue and resentment fell away as joy and wonder took over. All it takes is one, I told them during the last session, to make a difference. I had the best seat in the house and it was all worth the long nights and sacrifice. We share here one such experience that made all the difference.
As Ateneans, it is not our place to lift them from their burdens. We are not their saviors. But what we possess is the capacity to provide these people with a platform to amplify their voices. We must extend ourselves and our privilege to help these marginalized groups, not because it is the Atenean thing to do, but because it is the human thing to do.